All right, we are live. And hi, everybody, it's Tia. I am coming to you today with a pretty exciting interview that I think you are going to enjoy. My guest is Jordan Sather. Jordan is a YouTuber. He has a YouTube channel called Destroying the Illusion. And he covers a lot of really interesting topics, including, well, let's see, space program, secret space program, the QAnon phenomenon, current events, and vaccines. So I started watching Jordan about, I would say, probably about 10 months ago. And I've been a fan ever since. I gone through your YouTube channel, Jordan, and found all the vaccine-related videos that I could and put them into a playlist, which is in the description for this video. So you guys can, after this interview, go check out those videos that Jordan has done on the topic of vaccines. Also, Jordan is, I believe, a co-producer on a new docu-film called Above Majestic, which is about the secret space program, and there's some other stuff that's mixed in. And that film's doing pretty well. I think it is at the top of the documentary on Amazon Prime videos and iTunes. So doing pretty good. And Jordan, you can correct me if I've said anything incorrect and, fill the folks in a little bit more on your recent activities and what you've been doing with that film.
No, that's all great. I'm a co-producer and I'm in Above Majestic. It's centered around the secret space program topic, discussing the missing money from the Pentagon, the Department of Defense. That's in there. We touch on some of the technology. We have some insiders and whistleblowers giving their testimony in it, discussing their time within Black projects and what's really going on way behind the scenes, way underground, way over our heads that we aren't told about. Yeah, it's a pretty, for how grassroots we did it and how shoestring budget we did it, it ended up being an amazing documentary. It was the #1 doc on iTunes and Amazon for about a week there.
Wow.
And it is going pretty viral. It's pretty neat to see how much that is exploding. So, yeah, I am a YouTuber. That's kind of where I started, was with YouTube and social media like Twitter and Facebook. But over the last couple of years, because I started my YouTube channel at the beginning of last year, so almost 2 years now, I'm really just trying to expand into whatever avenue possible or necessary to get information out, get education out to the public, because of course we're not told correct things. So, yeah.
Well, like I said, I'm a fan. I'll admit that I started watching you because you were doing breakdowns on the QAnon phenomenon, which is pretty interesting little, I don't know if we should go too deep into it, but I think we will get to some of that during our conversation today. What we're really going to focus on today is the vaccine issue, because, you know, a lot of people who are Peeps followers, we're all affected in some way or another. I know I am. I have 2 vaccine-injured children. I have a daughter who is 28 who was recently diagnosed with Asperger's. She went undiagnosed her whole youth. And I also have a 12-year-old son who has autism. And I was injured by my last Tdap vaccine. So most of the folks on Peeps have that is their interest, that is their background. So what got you into investigating the vaccine? I like to call it the vaccine hoax, because it's a total hoax. They've totally scammed us on this thing. It's a total scam. They got us to believe that these things are for our health, and they're not for our health. But what got you interested in it?
Right. So good question, because this kind of goes into my whole history and how I got here now. So it's a very all-encompassing question. Originally, I'm 28 now, about to be 28. When I was 21, around there, I was in college. I was at that time in my second college. I flunked out of my first one because I just didn't care about the studies. Came back home, went to community college, and there I just didn't care. I didn't care what I was learning. It just didn't interest me. I didn't care about studies. And at that time, when I was about 20, 21, I got a job at a local health food supplement and sports nutrition store. And this wasn't your average like vitamin shop with basic generic awful supplements there. We actually had access to some pretty amazing remedies, you could say, underground remedies. And not only that, but the information that we were giving out there was also amazing information. So little 21-year-old me didn't really know what I was getting myself into there, but ended up getting a job at this place, and 6 to 9 months into it, I was like, wow, I'm learning some amazing things. On the bookshelf in the back, we had documentaries and books about genetically engineered foods, GMOs. We had resources discussing geoengineering, or chemtrails, colloquially called. We had a documentary called Thrive, which if anybody out there hasn't seen that, go watch that. It's an amazing documentary. Just all sorts of hard-hitting alternative information. But it was waking me up. It was blowing my mind. So I proceeded to drop out of college, work full-time at this place, ended up working in the natural health realm. I worked for a couple supplement stores. I worked at a chiropractic clinic, and then I worked as a personal trainer, strength coach, and all that for a few years. But yeah, what got me into vaccines was seeing not only that information, but actually having experiences of seeing vaccine injured people. And not only that, but seeing the ability of natural healing to handle autism, to actually help people start learning again and heal themselves. So, for instance, one example, I remember being in one of the stores one day, and this woman, she might have been in her late 50s, early 60s. She comes in a wheelchair, rolls herself in. And I asked her, what's going on? We got into a conversation. She tells me that she was just put into that wheelchair about a week prior because of the shingle shot. The shingle shot paralyzed her from the waist down.
Wow.
And like I said, I was young. I was, at that time, maybe 21, 22, and these experiences were blowing my mind. I remember being behind the desk one day and on the computer doing some scanning work, and a woman comes in. She asks me for any resources that we have, any scientific resources that we have about the flu shot and how dangerous and how, like you said, hoax, fake, how fraudulent it all is. And I got to talking to her. She was a pharmacist. Had a doctorate degree, and she was looking for what we could call anti-vaccine research because she did not want to get her flu shot. They were trying to force her to. She was going to court because she was rejecting the poison. So again, just experiences like this. There was a couple of them. We had some remedies there that were pretty amazing. I don't really want to talk about here, but I saw people use them. I saw young children, even autistic children, use these remedies and basically begin learning again, begin healing themselves. So seeing these experiences in regards to vaccines specifically, that's what woke me up to that specific subject. Not only that, but I had a child 6 years ago, and so it became a very personal subject to me, very personal. And that's why the vaccine subject hit home. And then, like I was saying, we had access to so much information, and the way I operate, my mind operates, once I started seeing the pharmaceutical system, the reality behind fluoride, GMOs, vaccines, and cancer remedies and all that, I was just hungry for truth elsewhere, everywhere. And I started going down so many different rabbit holes in a very short period of time. And that's kind of what leads me to being here, is because I worked all those different jobs in the alternative health realm for 5, 6, 7 years. I ended up where within me I felt a higher calling to share more information about more subjects with more people. So that's why I quit my jobs at the beginning of 2017. I just quit. Wouldn't recommend that, but I made it work and ended up, doing what I do on the internet now and with films and all that, talking about all sorts of different subjects.
I was wondering if you had any children, and you answered that question. So, what is, you don't have to speak about it if you don't want to, but do you feel like talking about your child?
I can. I can answer what I'm comfortable with. What kind of questions do you have?
Well, I mean, obviously, when you have a child, this is one of the things that comes up. It's assumed
Absolutely.
automatically that that you're going to vaccinate, and from the point that you state, nope, this is not what I want to do, it becomes a battle. So I was just wondering where you were at in that battle when your child came along. I don't know if 6 years ago they were pushing vaccines on pregnant women, but they've been pushing vaccines on
They
pregnant
were.
women too.
They
Yeah.
definitely were. Yeah, it's at that time. And I was very, I was about, let's see here, very freshly into my whole awakening process. But at the time that he came along, I started, would I want to call myself hard headed? I don't think at that time I was as hard headed as I was now, but I was very activated. I was very passionate. I've always been a very passionate individual. So I was passionate about doing the right thing. And once he came along, I said, sorry, doc. Nope, no can do. Nuh-uh. Don't want your BS. Don't want it. Sorry, I know that you paid a lot of money for that education. You were in school for 8 years, blah, blah, blah. But who knows if they were teaching you the right thing? You might think it was right, but it wasn't right. And, so I said no. And
Bravo.
I've been denied from doctor's offices for refusing. And I'm just like, okay, bye. Next number. Boop. I don't care.
Right.
And you have to come at that with that understanding is that double down, triple down, quadruple down. Don't let anybody tell you you have to do anything. You are your own sovereign human being. You have the right to do what you want to do. Nobody can tell you to get a shot. Nobody can tell you you have to do this to and get your shot to do this. So say no. Don't let anybody bully you. Even if they have a fancy lab coat or a big white coat with a clipboard, don't let them bully you. And also understand that when you are in a doctor's office and poor doctor over there doesn't realize that he's been lied to his whole life, you have to have compassion for that individual. 99% of doctors out there that are caught up in the brainwashing, they just simply don't know. And unfortunately, since they have spent so much time, so much money, and their ego is so invested into that narrative, that belief system, you got to feel for these people. You've got to feel for these people. Now, that's 99% of them. 99% of them are just blissfully ignorant. There are a small percentage of, we could call them doctors. I mean, I would question if many of them are even doctors, but most of them are public figures. Their face is out in the public. They call themselves doctors, may or may not be. They're the ones promoting vaccines that are probably paid to do so, and they are what we could call the conscious deceivers. So, Paul Offit, what's that dude on Facebook? Z-Dog, whatever the heck, Senator Pan in California. There's a small chunk of individuals out there who are just total shilling. How big was their paycheck? Maybe they're blackmailed. Don't know, don't care, but they're lying to you. Okay? So get that, right? There's a few people out there who, bad individuals, but you got to understand that most doctors who are telling you to get the flu shots, it's just, they haven't woken up yet. And it's going to be a very tough, hard process for them when they do so, but have compassion for them. That doesn't mean you give in to what they want you to do. Say no, but say, sorry, doc, I'm saying no because there's so much research, so much evidence that's actually out there that proves my case. And most of the research that they learn comes from the fancy doctorate schools where we can get into that if you want to a little bit here, but the actual education that they're receiving is all very well manicured. It's very specifically created. And most evidence, most statistics, most studies out there are co-opted, compromised, created, funded. They're made for their corporate masters. So it's a very sticky world out there.
Well, I really like the way that you instruct the new parent to be strong and be brave, and remember that we hire them
Mm-hmm.
not the other
Truly.
way around. We are paying them to work for us. We get to call the shots. If a doctor tries to fire you, I say fire them and tell them why you're firing them, you know? Okay, so one of the things that the pro-vaxxers don't want to talk about, and they get really upset. In fact, with We Are Vaxxed, which was the bus tour going around the country during when the film Vaxxed was being shown around the country, and Paulie Tommy got this RV, and it was painted black with the letters, with the words Vaxxed on it, and they drove it all around the country and had parents signing their names of their children's names on the bus, and it's completely covered now. And they were taking these interviews from vaccine injured families. And every now and then someone would pop up that had wanted to tell their story of their unvaccinated, or you would have a family that had vaccinated their first child or their first two children and then stopped vaccinating and had more children that were unvaccinated. And they were talking about the health of these unvaccinated children. That's when the trolls really came out. They seem to be okay with the collection of these vaccine injury stories because they could say, dismiss them as anecdotal, or whatever. You know how they can just write off any. Paul Offit even says that, and hi, Paul. Met him at the ACIP meeting and did not have lunch with him, but some of my friends did. Paul has said that the children who have been compensated on the vaccine injury court, the compensation program that's set up it was supposed to be a way to take care of these families that are inevitably hurt by vaccines, because in 1986, they passed a law that gave vaccine manufacturers complete immunity from liability. This fund has paid out almost $4 billion. It's incredibly hard to win a case in vaccine court. But these families that have had compensation, Paul doesn't believe that they were actually vaccine injured. Even though they were able to win a case in vaccine court and get compensation, he still thinks, well, you can't really say it was the vaccine. And that's what we're up against. You can say it's willful deceivers, and that very well may be true, but I think that they are willfully self-deceived. I mean, willfully self-deceived, because I have to believe, I somewhat believe, that most of these folks really think they're doing something good for humanity, that the whole vaccine program is a good thing. I can't believe that all of these people really understand that it is harming people, making people sick, making people disabled, killing people. They can't comprehend that. I have to believe there's a percentage of those people who are actually reachable.
Right. And we have to, and that's a good point. Maybe they're paid off, maybe they're conscious deceivers, maybe they're just what we call organic idiots. That's the other side of the spectrum, just organic idiots. And we have to have compassion for these people, because that shows you the strength of the human ego and the reluctance to change. The ego doesn't like change if it's imbalanced and ungrounded and working from an immature place. The ego doesn't like change. And especially when we have a education system and a media system set up in this country to strengthen the ego so much that an individual does not want to break out of whatever their rigid belief system is. So we could say a doctor talking about vaccines. They believe themselves to be so correct. I went to school for 8 to 12 years. I spent $100,000 on this fancy piece of paper on my wall. I went to an Ivy League school, top of the country. The media every single day reports these stories that confirm my beliefs, so I am correct, right? Our whole mind management system in this country is set up to reinforce these people stuck in the brainwashed belief systems. And this is also why belief systems are very, very dangerous. They could lead you astray. And, well, like you were saying, you could actually be leading yourself astray. So we could be talking about vaccine doctors stuck in these belief systems. We could be talking about standard model physicists out there stuck in these belief systems. They think the Big Bang exists, and all these certain things. We don't have to get into alternative physics theories, but it's across the board. Maybe it's this person thinking that our economic system is fantastic. We need central banks. We need the Federal Reserve. This country wouldn't be what it is without a dollar, whatever the case is, fiat dollar. So it's kind of, you can take these authorities. This is why authorities are so dangerous. It can be very dangerous to point to authorities, because the authorities themselves, those are the ones that are misled. Those are the ones that are targeted, and then people look up to those authorities that are misled and get misled themselves. So it's this whole societal control system that's been instrumented and created over the course of a long time. This isn't just something that's recent within 5 to 10 years. I mean, we're talking the last 100 years in this particular country, and longer than that worldwide.
Right.
It's been a very long cultural engineering process.
Yep. You're absolutely right. So I think we'll segue into, if you will.
Where do we want to go next? We can go anywhere.
I know that a lot of people in the vaccine risk aware world, if you will, some like to call us anti-vaxxers. I really don't identify with that label, because if I had been anti-vaccine, I wouldn't have vaccinated my kids. I wouldn't be in the situation I'm in. But a lot of people in the vaccine risk aware world had fairly high hopes about President Trump, then candidate, now President Trump, doing something about the vaccine issue. He did meet with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Andrew Wakefield, and there was supposed to be a vaccine a committee set up, and that sort of fizzled off and so a lot of folks are disappointed and they feel betrayed. They feel like Trump hasn't kept his word when it comes to what was the most important thing for them when they considered supporting him. Because for some people, it was a one issue vote, He was the only one willing to say publicly that he thought that vaccines had something to do with the autism epidemic that we're experiencing. So I believe, and I think that you're a great person to talk about this, I believe that the reason that Trump has not been able to go after the vaccine issue is because really that is just one tentacle of a very large beast. It's one head of a multi-head Hydra beast. And at the core of that beast is the same core of all these others. So you could say like okay, hold on. My phone is going to ring.
Go for it.
No, I'm not answering it because I get these calls from guys from India trying to sell me prescription medication over the phone. They call every day, multiple times a day. It's ridiculous. Crazy. So no, I'm not answering it. Nobody ever calls the house phone. But what was I saying? Okay, so we have pharma, we have big chem, we have big food, we have big ag, we have we have oil, we have there's so many pieces.
Tentacles, yes.
Right? There's the pharmaceutical industry and the vaccine division of the pharmaceutical industry. There is the interconnectedness with the CDC and HHS getting involved in the, patenting, buying, selling, distributing, recommending vaccines. The situation that we have right now is a result of all of these, what we may call the deep state, the cabal, they're basically at the core of everything. So you can't he couldn't go after the vaccine issue because it would be like just chopping off one of the heads of the Hydra, and it's just going to, you have to go to the core. We have to go to the
Mm-hmm.
beast. The core of the beast is the cabal. So I was wondering what your thoughts were on that, sort of as an explanation for why maybe we haven't seen any action on the vaccine issue yet, because he's got bigger fish to fry, and when he takes those fish out, the rest is going to collapse. It's going to be like,
Yeah, you sort of answered the question kind of perfectly there in that statement. And one thing though, before we move on, I don't have a nervous tick or anything. There's this fly flying around if you haven't seen it, and I'm just trying to get him away. Exactly. So we can't put our own personal attachments, our own personal expectations at what's going on politically right now and get let down because that hasn't happened yet, or he's not going over this one issue that's really near and dear to my heart, so that means he's a bad person, right? We're putting false attachments, false expectations out there. Just as you said, the vaccine issue is one tentacle of a massive beast out there. And this is why, again, the way I talk, the way I've been discussing in this interview and the way I talk in general is very big picture, right? So we're talking about cultural engineers, societal programmers, things like that. It's a very big picture way of describing this, or deep state cabal are as well, is because, again, like you said, one tentacle of many. We have big pharma, big ag. We have all the aerospace contractors and their ties in with the intelligence community. The intelligence community has ties in with all sorts of different systems, the media corporations and this and that. And we can go down the list of how much corruption, how many rogue agencies, rogue people are out there. So again, it is one massive beast. Now, okay, is Trump even doing anything about this beast? Well, absolutely. And this brings up the very important point, is that it's not Trump himself that's working against this beast. It's actually Trump and a whole group of individuals, most of them military, positive people in the military that have experienced this Hydra beast, this cabal up front, and we could call them white hats or patriots, a part of a rebel alliance, if you will. They are getting into more positions of power, and they are actually doing things about it. Now, what they have to do is go for the core of this cabal first. If they were to just go for one of the outlying tentacles, go for vaccines, or go for Monsanto, or go for they are pretty much going for the rogue intelligence agencies, or go for any of these tentacles, it's a very long, drawn-out operation. It's a very complex operation going on. So they have to go for the core first. And they are doing that. Now, the thing about President Trump, whatever the deep state media is going to tell you, this is one man that has been able to get into office that is a part of this alliance operation. And it's the first individual in office that hasn't been a part of the club for a long, long time. I would say the only people in the 20th century that weren't a part of that club that got into office were probably Eisenhower, Kennedy, and Reagan. And we know what happened to Kennedy and Reagan.
right.
Bullet holes in both of those, one of them fatal. And Eisenhower was basically put into submission by this deep state, in short there. So, again, it's very deep, it's very pervasive, and it's been going on for a long, long time. Now in 2016, luckily Hillary Clinton didn't win, and Trump's gotten into office. Now, since then, we've seen this massive power play going on that we see on the mainstream level, of course, fake news media and all of that, but there's much more going on the subsurface level, behind the scenes. And over the past couple of years, this is why the citizen journalists out there, those people on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, have become so important. They've become so important because they're really the only ones that are able to put actual truth out there. So social media has revolutionized things, in the realm of this whole awakening process, getting people informed and educated. And also, this is why we're seeing censorship up the yin yang over the past, not just few months, over the past year especially. I mean, I myself, I've had censorship on every single platform you could name. Amazon has deleted an affiliates account of mine, which is weird. That's not even social media. But Amazon decided to delete my affiliates account. I've had my YouTube channel terminated twice. Luckily, it was reinstated twice, so I have it back now. And I've been dealing with shadow banning and demonetization. Those things are just another day in the Sather household. And Facebook, I've been put in Facebook jail. I've been just all sorts of things. You know, I could go down the list. So censorship is going crazy. They are very scared. They're very scared about how awake and aware the population is getting. For example, we could just talk about the vaccine issue. I mean, 5-6 years ago, if I was to ask somebody about vaccines, even in my little natural health food store I used to work at, talking about vaccines, a lot of people would still get triggered. But now, at the end of 2018, there's a lot more people than just 5 years ago starting to wake up to just that one topic. And not only, I mean, people in general waking up to all the topics as well, but they're starting to connect the dots, piece it together. Social media has absolutely helped with that. People watching videos on YouTube and going through Twitter and following the right people. It's amazing how the internet and these social media companies have helped wake up so many people. So, of course, on the internet and all these social media platforms, there's a lot of nasty stuff, but the internet and social media is just a tool. It's just a tool. You can take that hammer, you can take that tool and pound yourself in the hand, or you can hit the nail on the head. It's about how you're using that tool. So using YouTube and Twitter and Facebook resourcefully for yourself, well, man, you could change your life. You could change your life on YouTube, truly.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we can talk a little bit more about that kind of shadow civil war aspect of it if you want to, with Trump and that group of military individuals taking down the cabal and deep state. We can go there. We can go wherever you want to in this conversation.
Well, we've got some folks on
we can do some Q&A.
We've got some folks on the view that are viewing right now. And one of them seems to be, I'm not sure if they are behaving themselves appropriately, but I'm going to go ahead and say, hi, Margaret.
Can I see the chat?
Jumping on. You would have to probably...
No, I can't. I can't see the chat, so you're going to have to tell me the questions.
So Jordan can't see any of your comments. And so Margaret is interested. She's very interested in some of the other topics that you talk about. But I just want to say that for the sake of this interview, this is Peeps TV, and we do try to we talk a lot about the vaccine issue, and that's pretty much the topic that we'll be covering with Jordan today. If you're interested in finding out more about what he believes about the secret space program and having more of an interactive conversation with him on those topics, I would recommend that you subscribe to his YouTube channel, which is Destroying the Illusion, and get on his channel. And I know you do live feeds. How often do you do live?
Quite often, maybe 2-3 times a week.
So you do live. Some Q&A. I've watched some of those. You do some Q&A. You talk on there. Look, that's going to be the best. Rather than like asking you whether or not you believe there's a base on Mars or any of those other topics, I'm sure you could give great answers to, and they would be appropriate for another video. So Margaret, go subscribe to Jordan's YouTube channel. Watch some stuff. That way you can get familiar with the other things that he talks about. He's a bright guy. And I'm not saying I subscribe 100% to everything, but no, we don't need to do that. It's all about sharing information. Now, some of that information may not, for me, how do I say this? I listen to things and I see how they resonate with me, and I try to keep an open mind because I know that I'm not always right about everything. And everything pretty much that Jordan talks about, I resonate. Resonates pretty close to truth, I think, for the most part. But you can ask him those kind of questions over on his
Yeah,
channel.
and there's plenty of videos over there that I've covered some of this stuff.
Right.
And one of my favorite sayings lately is believe nothing, research everything, and see what patterns arise. See the patterns that come up. Because you can't deny patterns. You can deny single bits of information, but you can't deny patterns. So I don't believe anything. Because one day you could think something's this particular way, and the next day you can just have that belief shatter. So yep. I don't like to stick myself into any particular belief because it all could change any day. But again, see what resonates, just like you were saying. See what resonates with your intuition, with your gut feeling, because that doesn't lie to you. Your brain will lie to you. Your brain likes to make up all sorts of confirmation biases and run with certain rumors, and your ego lives up in your head space and it likes to think it's right. But if you get into your body a little bit more and really see what your intuition starts telling you, then that won't lie to you. But yeah, let's stick on what is this channel is all about here.
So I was starting to talk about the health of the unvaccinated. So it sounds to me like your child is not vaccinated. Is that a fair assessment?
Mm-hmm.
How healthy? How many times has he been sick? Have you worried about the measles?
Hardly. Nope. Not worried. Not worried at all. I don't let fear shut down the critical thinking centers of my brain. And that's on the vaccine topic. That is it's a massive red pill for people. And this is why I'm seeing in the vaccine community, people are so open-minded to so many other topics because vaccines it's so catalyzing to people. It's such a big red pill that if they can accept the truth about vaccines, it's like, easy. Okay, what's next? So in regards to how they promote the propaganda behind vaccines, it's very fear-oriented. Are you worried about getting polio? What if your kid gets sick and dies and all this stuff? And again, that does not come from critical thinking at all. In fact, I would be more concerned about my child getting diseases if he was vaccinated. Why? Because, heck, that is how many milligrams of aluminum and mercury in his body, not only screwing up his nervous system, but your nervous system and your immune system, basically the same thing. I mean, we're holistic beings. Every single system in our body is connected to another. So his immune system is going to start suffering. If you actually look at what vaccines are doing to us, it is not helping our immune systems. In fact, what it's doing to our immune system is creating a hypersensitive response, super hypersensitive response. So this is why autoimmune disorders are going exponential and allergies are going exponential. And oh my gosh, it's not only milligrams of heavy metals in these shots, but we have egg proteins and peanut oil and who knows what the heck else is in there. I've seen studies showing nanoparticles and doctors blowing the whistle on mycoplasma. Research that, mycoplasma in vaccines. These two things, nanoparticles and mycoplasmas, those won't be on the insert. Those won't be listed there. So what I'm saying is you don't even know what's in there. The label won't even say what's in there in that little shot. So you're injecting yourself into you. So injecting this into you. So what that's going to do is hinder your immune system. And on that same topic, I mean, isn't it interesting? Because we typically have a view of nature knows what it's doing, or God knows what it's doing, whatever words you want to use to describe that. But yet, us as humans, we think we know better than nature. We think we know better than God. So our immune system is incomplete. Wow, we need vaccines to fix it. Wow, we are so great as human beings. Fantastic. So it's just the logic is out the window with their propaganda. And the reason why their propaganda is so effective is because of the fear that they drive home with it. You're going to get this disease. Your kid's going to die. And especially when it comes to child. Like if it was just a person, yeah, the fear works pretty well if it's just you. But when somebody has a child, that adds a whole nother layer of intensity for the fear to hit. Like, oh my gosh, I don't want my child to die, so I better get them how many 69 vaccines within their first 18 years of life, so their immune system is perfect for the rest 70 years of their life. It's just, again, there's no logic behind any of this propaganda. I, in fact, see it as a vaccinated human being is going to be not optimally functioning. And even if an injury doesn't present itself immediately, even if it's not noticeable, the way I think of it is that every single person that's ever been vaccinated is vaccine injured. You get one vaccine, you're going to be injured. Why? Because you're injecting heavy metals and who knows what into you. Your body's going to have a response. Even if you don't see a response in yourself or your child, if your child doesn't within 48 hours turn and start getting some sort of neurodevelopmental dysfunction, it's still an injury. There's a bruise within. There's something within you that's going to be harmed with that. And also looking at history. If you look at the history of the decline of disease and the introduction of vaccines within the mid-1900s, there's great research out there. I think Dr. Suzanne Humphreys does a lot on this, in that most, if not all, of these infectious diseases actually declined 95 to 99% in the mid-1900s before the vaccines were even introduced. Measles and mumps, whooping cough, pertussis. These diseases were way down, and then the vaccine was introduced. And again, it's very easy for these cultural engineers to write the history books, write the textbooks for us. Boom, they attribute it to the vaccines when it really wasn't. If you actually think about it logically, better sanitation in the mid-1900s, a lot better sanitation, a lot better living conditions. We weren't, throwing our crap in the back alleyway anymore and peeing outside the car. We actually had indoor plumbing and toilets. Wow, much cleaner. Our immune systems are going to function much better. Not only that, but refrigeration systems. And with the highway system in this country, we were able to eat more balanced diets, more full diets, transport food around and keep it from rotting. And then, our diets got much better. Wow, our immune system strength in the 1950s, before any vaccine was introduced, probably went up many, many, many times. And that's what declined these diseases. Vaccines were introduced, very convenient altering of the textbooks. Everybody thinks it was vaccines that got rid of polio and got rid of whooping cough. So again, it's they're very clever. They're very clever with their mental manipulation techniques. They know how to bring out false evidence appearing real. Fear, false evidence appearing real. They know how to bring out false evidence. They know how to utilize our emotions to really have our propaganda hit home. And man, they've done a darn good job doing it. But I will say, still on the topic of vaccines, I saw a study come out recently, this was in the last few weeks, where, and this was reported in the mainstream media, I think. Of course, they were trying to discredit and throw shade on it, but a stat came out showing that children born in 2015 compared to children born in 2009, I think now we have almost 2 to 3 times as many children just in the recent couple years going unvaccinated as compared to about 10 years ago. So again, people are waking up. People are waking up. They're starting to think again. They're not getting caught up with the propaganda. So I don't want to be saying this all just to scare people and be like, oh my gosh, this world's crazy. It's getting much better. It's getting much, much better. And there is a massive awakening taking place.
I would definitely agree with you that people are waking up. Mm-hmm. And as they're waking up, we're getting more pushback.
Definitely. Absolutely.
As to be expected. And, they say you take the most heat when you're over the target. So, recently, and I think you might have caught one of my videos that I spoke before the advisory committee on immunization practices at CDC. And we need to be speaking truth to power. We need to be going to where these people are and telling them exactly what we think. of what they're doing. And that is, I think, a shift. I think a shift happened last month where we started to realize more that we do have a voice and we can be heard. And so I think that shifting is going to continue too as we go into the new cycle now with the election over. We know that the Republicans have control of the Senate and the Democrats have control of the House. And hopefully that majority in the Senate will allow President Trump to start to move forward on some of these things that we feel, are important. So everybody, please continue to pray big and believe and send good positive vibes and whatever it is that you do, because we are so close. And there's a lot of fracturing going on in our communities. I think not just in the vaccine risk world. I'm sure you see it too, Jordan, in among all the different various kind of elements of what you do. And listen, there's I think somebody on the feed is a little confused because of some of the other topics that you cover. But look, truth needs to be. We don't censor anybody else's truth. So in other words, when I brought Jordan on here, it was because of the intelligent approach that he has to the vaccine issue. Whether or not you agree with some of the other things that he covers, that's something that you're going to have to determine for yourself. And I'm not espousing that you feel one way or another, but give this young man the opportunity to find out what he's about, instead of making disparaging comments on this live feed. I love you. I don't want to have to ban you. Please don't make me ban you. Okay. I love you.
Oh, it's okay. I can handle the disparaging comments.
But you're used to it, right? I mean, you've got
On the topic of taking the most flack when you're over the target, again, I'm very well aware of how the internet works. And when it comes to comment sections under my videos or on Twitter or on Facebook and my Facebook group, it has stepped up quite a notch in recent weeks.
Yeah.
And in the amount of internet disinformation campaigns there are, the troll accounts, the troll comments. We even have controlled opposition assets, we could call them, out there who are dressed up as journalists and have a public face, but behind the scenes, who's paying them to say what. There's been definitely flack, a lot more smearing going on lately. And also, one quick note on the topic of, we were talking about a force of good within our government working on the vaccine topic, working on big pharma. That is happening, though. I'm seeing it happen. There are a couple dots to connect there that lets me know that they are making headway there. The CDC director resigned earlier this year, I believe. What was his name? Dr. Thomas. Anyway, he was the CDC director. He resigned, and he's getting hit with sexual abuse allegations and charges. That's fantastic. Not only that, but Monsanto had that case that they lost in California, had to pay out $300 million because a farmer proved that glyphosate caused his lymphoma. Monsanto appealed it. They lost the appeal, which is a fantastic thing. That's going to pave the way for a lot of court cases to begin to come out versus Big Ag. And not just that, there's a few other things as well. So, yeah, there are a lot of pieces are coming together. Lots of stuff is going on behind the scenes. We won't get into that topic here because we could talk for another 3 hours about that. But yes, I mean, things are definitely happening. And again, I know I have some interesting beliefs, some off-the-wall ones, but it's not, I don't have a need to confirm them to myself. It's me looking at what is, at just the information out there and trying to form the truth in my head. Because you were kind of touching on it a minute ago in that the truth, really, there's only one truth. There's only one absolute truth out there. And
right.
us as humans, we only have our relative truths. We only have our little lenses, our little perspectives that we view based upon our experiences and our life and the information we've come across. So none of us is going to have the absolute truth on anything. That's impossible. It's impossible. So the point is to just come across as much information as you can. Like I said earlier, believe nothing, research everything, and see what patterns come about. I'm very good with patterns. So I'm just seeing with whatever subject it is, health, black projects, this, that, politics, who knows? I'm just seeing what patterns come up.
Well, and that is a sign of great intelligence. Okay, great intelligence is not formed by having already known everything that you come across and encounter in your life. I mean, knowledge and wisdom comes from acquiring new ideas, new thoughts, new information, and that information doesn't always that information doesn't always add up to exactly what it may be in absolute truth, but the process is. I like, one of my favorite guys of all was Einstein, and Einstein did thought projects where he would remove any obstacles from the problem that he was trying to think about, and he would actually just open up his mind to just any possibility. And that's how he came up with some of the amazing things that he discovered, was these thought, what would you call it? Thought experiments. So, folks, listen, there was a time when all of us believed the vaccine hoax. We all believed it at some point. Most of us. There are some pure anti-vaccine abolitionists that have never been vaccinated and saw the truth from day one. And those people have been around, by the way, ever since Jenner's first vaccine. So the anti-vaccine movement was not born when Andy Wakefield did his little study in England. There have always been conscientious objectors to vaccines. But for a lot of us, we bought it. That's why we took our kids and got them vaccinated. We were vaccinated. So it took opening up our own minds to the fact that we were being deceived about the vaccines, and the information that we'd been given was incorrect. And I think that's really all Jordan does, is like try to look at things from different angles to see what could the truth be. And that's why I like you, Jordan. That's why I'm one of your biggest fans, even though we hadn't really started communicating until recently. But I have been following you for a while, and I will continue to follow you, and look forward to your videos all the time. One last thing before we go, because we are closing in on the hour here. I don't know if you already heard, but Sessions has resigned. Okay, you heard? Someone was putting that in the chat, like repeatedly, wanted to make sure you knew. So, interesting development. We'll have to see what that means, and who knows where we're going. But hopefully, we're going to be resolving the vaccine hoax problem in the next few years, because I can't see how we can go on as a society continually destroying the next generation's brains. It just boggles my mind, because we really do have a problem on our hands if we continue the way we're going.
Yes, I don't doubt that, not only with the public waking up, but it must also be understood that a lot of people in government are good people that are also unaware. They're also ignorant, blissfully ignorant. They're going to be waking up just like we are. Many of them are woken up, per se. They just have had their hands tied, or they've had strings attached to them. They haven't been able to do what they've wanted to do for a long time. So with a public waking up exponentially, and with good people gaining control behind the scenes within government, within military, and people that want to do good, I have no doubt that very soon, not only will the vaccine topic be handled, but I think a lot of darkness is going to be coming to light among a full spectrum of issues.
From your lips to God's ears, my friend. For sure. So do you have any final thoughts before we close out the I was looking for questions, but I didn't see a whole lot of questions, just some comments.
Yeah, I can tell listeners out there where they can find me. I don't think
That
I
would be
mentioned
great.
the name of my YouTube channel yet. It's called Destroying the Illusion. Destroying the Illusion on YouTube. If that gets banned, there's a Destroying the Illusion 2.0 on YouTube that I use. And on Twitter, it's Jordan_Sather_. And then Facebook, you can just search me on my Facebook. So those are the main outlets to find me. The documentary, did we even say the name of that either? It's called Above Majestic. Above Majestic. You can find that on iTunes, Amazon, Vimeo, Google Play, Xbox, Vudu. Brace yourself for that one, though, if you're going to make the choice to watch it. And what else? That's it. That's pretty much it for now.
Sounds great. Well, I put your YouTube channel and your Twitter handle up there on the screen as a little crawler.
Great.
And so folks can take a minute and write it down. And so, like I said, just trying to bring you guys something different and interesting. I thought you would enjoy Jordan. He's a smart guy, even if some of his ideas are a little bit outside of what you might normally be looking into. Give him a chance. I think he's a good guy, and I do like what he has to say about vaccines. So check the description on this video, because I have a link to a playlist with about 16 different videos that Jordan has done on the vaccine topic. So if some of the other stuff is a little too much for you, then just stick to the videos that he's done on vaccines. They're great. They're very shareable. They're very, he uses very easy to understand terms, so he doesn't talk over your head. And I think that it's good for sharing, especially there's one, I think at the very beginning of the playlist, that's so you're expecting a child, should you vaccinate? Is that the title of it, right?
Sounds right. It's just me probably talking to the camera. I think I remember doing that one, yeah.
Yeah, talking to someone who had asked whether or not they should vaccinate their new child.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So there's some good stuff on there, you guys. So check it out. And once again, Jordan, thanks for coming on Peeps TV. It was great having you. I think you were a great guest, and I look forward to seeing you and what you put out next.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.